I think the challenge for wonderful institutions like this one and colleges all over the world, industry, and companies, and schools that produce beautiful young people all over the world, the challenge is not to ignore this next generation. I say that because I did. I ignored its predecessor generation, which is the millennials. I entered into a work environment with all of the knowledge that I bring to the table. And I couldn't handle it. It was just too complicated for me. I got a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, I have a doctorate, I have an honorary doctorate, I have a law degree. And I couldn't handle it. The skill sets were too complex for me. And I want to continue to make a contribution. What does this next generation look like that universities, industries, educators have to serve? Looks just like you. Handsome, pretty, represent countries all over this wonderful world of ours. Multi-ethnic, multiracial, all genders, they look just like you. Who is this next generation? Nearly 2 billion people across this globe who will not only influence the future, they will create it. They're called Generation Z. Generation Z follows Generation Y, which is the millennial generation. They were born, as was said earlier, from 1995 to around 2009, I'm sorry. They live and exist in an era where family structures are being transformed every moment of the day. Adults that look like me and you are downloading information for their young people, accelerating their learning before they enter into kindergarten. Yes, they're university students, look just like some of you here. Handsome, pretty. But more importantly, they are future employees and consumers of tomorrow. Just want to point out some statistics here. Let's take up here. Just G generation, this Generation Z, I'm sorry. Experts are saying during their lifetime, they will move in and out of 15 different households during their lifetime. They will have 17 different jobs. How many of your parents had one job during their lifetime? How many of you anticipate having one job in your lifetime? 17 different jobs. In terms of their education, 1 out of every 2 will be university educated as compared to the millennium, 1 out of every 3. Look at some of the digital integrators. I just want to point out one. They will spend more than 10 hours and 19 minutes every day interfacing, interacting. Could you believe I'm saying that? Interacting with technology. Unlike my generation, baby boomers, born between 1945 and 1965. We engage in a classroom environment, and the engagement was verbal, mostly between them up in front of us. Their engagement is visual. Most learning styles probably go out the window now. Kinesthetic, hearing. These young people want to see. Of the 2 billion, I'm sorry. Of the 2 billion, I hit something I shouldn't have. Of the 2 billion, most of them will come from India. Secondarily, China. And thirdly, the United States of America. Their brains are wired differently than other generations. Not genetically, behaviorally. They like open spaces. Can you imagine that? Naturally lighted environments, probably outdoors. Or you have to create these facilities that allow a whole lot of light in. They like a lot of color, bright colors. They do not want to sit in traditional classrooms, one behind the other, where someone is lecturing them. They don't need that anymore. They want to build. They want to create. They want to design. As a matter of fact, they want to know why things are happening. And you don't have to tell them. They'll figure it out. Some other characteristics, they want to be private. They're not like the millennials. They go on the internet and show everything, get in trouble, commit a crime and advertise it. That's what they do in America. No, they access Snapchat and whisper. They send it out and grab it back. See me? You see me no more. The entrepreneurial. In America, 72% of high school students want to own their own business. But more importantly, they've created a whole new orientation. They want to have more than one career. Move around to 17 different jobs. They want more than one career. They want to be a doctor and a lawyer. They want to be a technician and a judge. They want to be a housewife and an accountant and a finance person because they have the capacity now to do it. It's our responsibility to respond to them as societies. They like multitasking. You know, they like to do a whole lot of things at the same time. and they're comfortable doing it. But unlike millennials that are able to manipulate, operate, negotiate between more than one screen, 2 screens, by the way, this next generation will be able to do the same thing with 5 screens. And when you ask them a question and they provide you with an answer, they won't even be looking at you because they'll be so occupied, functioning, negotiating, navigating all of these tasks. They're hyper-driven. They interface with technology so much, it's almost like equivalent to water and air. You know how we need water to live and we need to breathe? That's how they internet. They can't stand being disconnected to the internet. They're hyper-aware of their surroundings. They know everything that's going on. They access thinking in 4D, 4-dimensional thinking, when solving problems. And you remember this, the history of human thinking. 1-dimensional thinking goes back to agrarian society, hunters and gatherers, survival. Major advancement between 1st-dimensional thinking and 2nd-dimensional thinking. 2nd-dimensional thinking is equivalent to the Industrial Revolution during that period of time. What was prevalent during that time is vertical and logical thinking. I heard earlier, 3rd-dimensional thinking. Thinking out of the box. Not these young people. They look at a situation the way it exists now. They compare it with the way it was before. And then they use critical, progress, reflective, and creative thinking to not only to solve the problem, but to create the future, a future that we will have to live in. They must be prepared for an expanded globalization. So they access the internet. They access information on their own, and then they take this information and they share it with their friends that exist all around the world. I'm sure you remember the Arab Spring. 2011, I was living in the Middle East during that time, where there was a series of anti-government protests and uprisings that were very prevalent in the Middle East and Northern Africa, designed to dismantle repressive regimes. Generals of tomorrow, if they manage to take hold of these countries, they're going to have to be mindful. They're going to have to reach out to this new generation or risk failure. Why? Because in these Arab states, 60% of all of the people are less than 25 years old. And they're not going to settle for waving flags. And acquiescing to these general rules. They're not going to do that anymore because they're connected. They're connected to people all over the world. They know that alternatives exist, and they can access those alternatives. They're connected with global networks. And the opinions that they access come from a much wider world. Companies competing in this global economy, they understand how important innovation is. They know innovation is the key. Innovation is the key to global and company competitiveness. They understand. They understand the relationship between globalization and innovation and product development. And they know that the future workers that they excise, they understand their relationship between innovation, and they know that they have to develop a different kind of person. With a different kind of an education. One that doesn't look quite like the ones that we come out of. So these teachers and professors in these institutions throughout this world of ours, ladies and gentlemen, they have to support different kind of learning styles. More specifically, as I indicated earlier, visual learning styles. These kids are powerful. And these teachers have to begin to recognize, and policies have to be created to take us in another direction. Otherwise, we're going to turn off these kids. Today, they are creating jobs for the future. They are designing jobs for the future. These young people will have many, 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 many choices to choose from, and they will operate within many of them, as I indicated earlier. Just think about creating a pension or retirement system. How do you do that when an individual operates and lives and functions 4 different careers? 2 years here, 10 years here, 3 years here, 7 years here. Public policy is affected by that. Because if we don't do it, guess what? They will do it. They will occupy these seats, these lecterns, these universities. They will be the policymakers. We have to begin teaching a different set of skills. Not taking these tests. In America, we teach to the test. We have 50 states that behave the same way. They teach to the test. Can't be giving these kids these multiple choice questions. They don't work anymore. All the kid has to do is text the answer to the other kid. Have everybody's email address, hit the button, and the answer goes out to everybody. They have to engage in projects, connecting universities, connecting people all around the world, doing projects. They have to teach teamwork and communication skills. They have to focus on that. And as I indicated a little while ago, they can't be disgusted with texting. They got to find a way to make texting work in a classroom environment. They must incorporate skills that provide equilibrium and reach all learners across the globe. And in closing, teachers of the future must be more adept. They have to have the ability to move between lessons, but move between groups of kids as they facilitate learning. Facilitate. We should even change the name from teacher to facilitator. They have to be proactive because they got to get themselves together. The paradigm has to shift. And once the paradigm shifts, everything goes back to the way you want it to be, whatever that shift is. So we have to empower these institutions so that they teach this learner a different way of delivering instruction. Teach the teacher a different way of delivering instruction to the learner. Excuse me. And then finally, we must prepare students for the demands of the future. And ladies and gentlemen, that's our job. That's our responsibility. If we want to live in a society that makes us all come together and operate consistent with not only modernity, but certainly in support of globalization. Peace. Thank you.